Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by and, as usual, keeping my company while I present you with some more information. Now, I had promised you that I would bring you some information about the cascade that is going on with the Auditor General special reports that were submitted to the Parliament, to the Speaker, but they were sent back on Friday, we were told, and it was sent back because the Parliamentary Council, that's a lawyer, I suppose, for the Parliament, advised the Speaker that the reports did not follow the proper procedure under the Section 30 of the Public Administration Audit Act. So I have asked some questions myself because the reports in the newspapers doesn't seem to me to go far enough in asking questions. And there's one critical one that I am interested in. Because when you consider that the reports were sent to the Auditor General and she promptly sent it back, or said she would, and I can confirm that it was indeed sent back to them just one working day. So the Friday, the 22nd, the audited reports went back to the Auditor General, and by Monday, the 25th, the Auditor General sent them back. Now, that doesn't sound to me as if there was any big deal. But I'm trying to confirm what I suspect happened, but I haven't been able to do so as yet. But in the meantime, for those persons who are here for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. We do appreciate you coming to listen to what we have to say. And we would urge you to share, because whatever I share here is as a result of me going out to do some research. Usually I seek my research and information from the laws, because everything that is established, especially about government, it's about law. So the laws, you can't go wrong when you check the laws. So that's what I tend to do here. And so I bring you the information that you need, not from speculation or from what other people say the law says. I go read it for myself. So I would appreciate if you share the information if you find it interesting, and also to make some comments. And I particularly would like you to make some comments today, because I'm going to be sharing with you some clips from Nationwide News Network, and CliffViews brought information from a government senator. She seems very knowledgeable, well spoken, and also this lady from JAMP. It's called JAMP. Her name is Calder, and she has a different perspective on what the law says. I just took some time to read the law myself to see if it could confirm what it is that Ms. Calder is saying. But I have not a different perspective, but I am going to, at the end of you listening to what CliffViews has to say, and Ms. Calder and the other government senator, I will give you what my perspective is. But I should tell you, though, that I'm still waiting for some more information. So there should be a part 2 to this. Now, as I said before, that I would like you to leave comments. And what I'm particularly interested in is whether or not you understand what is being discussed. If it's still confusing, because it was a little confusing to me, and if you find it confusing and you would like more information, please tell me in the comment section so I can go ahead. But if you do understand what is happening and everything is clear, then I might have to reconsider where I really need to bring any additional information. But please remember to leave your comment. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up so I can know that you appreciate it. And then I'll feel encouraged. You know what they say in Jamaica, encouragement sweetens labor. All right, so let you listen to CliffViews now. And when he's done, I will return with a few more comments of my own. Just listen.
Yeah? Well, since then, it's now Monday morning, and the issue of whether the Speaker of the House, the member for East Rural St. Andrew, Mrs. Juliet Holness, the wife of the Prime Minister, is deliberately suppressing reports from the Auditor General's department, is now the hot button issue this morning. Yes? That story took off, of course, from what happened in the House last Thursday afternoon. Well, one thing has been established. There's no outstanding report to be tabled from the Integrity Commission. There's no outstanding report from the Integrity Commission to be tabled. Yes? Now, to the Auditor General's report. We learned on Thursday or Friday that there are 2 reports from the Auditor General that have not been tabled, and that the House has since returned those 2 reports to the Auditor General's department, essentially on the basis that they were not submitted in accordance with the law that governs the treatment of such reports before they are submitted to the House of Representatives for tabling. And I've been listening to the reporting and the commentary, including this morning from Senator Shireen Golding, and before her from the Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, Jeanette Calder. And the whole thing turns on the interpretation of the law. What the law says and how that is to be interpreted and put into practice. And it is now a hot political issue because of how the opposition leader, Mark Golding, raised it in the parliament during the debate last Thursday. But if we can step back from the heat of the politics and strip it of all the noise, it comes down to an interpretation of the law. Yes? Now, we are going to play for you a report that speaks to one interpretation of the law. And then later at about 10:30, we're going to be joined by Mrs. Calder from JAMP to give you another perspective, so you have both perspectives. Yeah? So let's go to the break and come back with the first of the report. So, what is at the heart of this issue of the tabling of reports from the Auditor General's Department? As I said, strip it of the politics and the heat of the politics. It comes down to an interpretation of the law. The Speaker and the government are maintaining that they are following the law. The opposition is questioning that and asking that the opinion on which the government's position would have been based should be made public. And I can't see why that opinion has not been made public. That's the opinion of the Attorney General. And I would urge the Speaker and the House to make that opinion public. And of course, What is the fine point of the law that has given rise to this sharp difference of opinion? Well, Nationwide reported this morning that the Parliament is urging the Auditor General's Department to follow the law that governs the treatment of the reports before they are submitted to the House for tabling. It's understood that this was the basis upon which 2 reports were recently returned to the AG's department by the clerk of the Houses of Parliament without being tabled. Here's that report by Mahira Stewart.
It's understood Parliament sent back the 2 reports to the AGD after House Speaker Juliet Holness was advised by Parliament's legal counsel that the department did not comply with a requirement for documents to first be sent to the responsible minister. The correspondence, which was sent on January 8, 2024 by Clerk of the Houses of Parliament Valerie Curtis to Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis, said the reports were not sent for tabling in the House in accordance with the provisions of the law. The reports are a special audit of the Financial Services Commission, FSC, and a special audit of Tax Administration Jamaica, TAJ. Section 30 of the Financial Administration and Audit Act, FAAA, says the Auditor General's report on examination and audit of any accounts audited pursuant to subsection 1 shall initially be submitted to the responsible minister for presentation, subject to the requirements of the Act. The Act also says the responsible minister, upon receipt of the report, shall obtain the observation of the public body concerned on any matter which has been drawn by the Auditor General in the report, and cause such observations to be presented to the House of Representatives together with the report. The Act says if the responsible minister does not, within 2 months of receiving the report, present it to the House of Representatives, the Auditor General shall transmit a copy of the report to the House Speaker to be presented to the House. A similar process for tabling Auditor General audit reports is recommended in Section 13A of the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act. It's understood that Parliament has taken the position that no individual, agency, or department is above the law. It's also understood that as soon as the Auditor General's Department observes the provisions of the FAA Act, all reports will be tabled immediately. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Mahiri. Well, on Nationwide this morning, Government Senator Shireen Golding Campbell addressed the matter. And according to Senator Golding Campbell, the public uproar over the actions of the Speaker in relation to reports received from the Auditor General is unnecessary. Unnecessary. Yes? Senator Golding Campbell insisted that the law clearly outlines how the Speaker and the Auditor General should operate in accordance with parliamentary procedure.
The Constitution is very clear about the Auditor General's authority and role, and the supporting legislation, both the Financial Administration and Audit Act and the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act, which are the 2 major relevant ones, are fairly clear as well. And I think, if I might, we are confusing the constitutional duty of the Auditor General, who has a clear duty at large to audit central government. If you look at Section 122(1) in the Constitution, it is very clear. The accounts of the courts, the accounts of the offices of the clerks to the Senate and the House, and the accounts of all departments and offices of the government of Jamaica, including offices of the cabinet and some named commissions, the judicial services, police, and public service, right? That is the constitutional function of the Auditor General, to look at those offices. Now, further down in Section 122(1), the Constitution sets out that notwithstanding it has laid out her duty in relation to central government, nothing prevents her from such other functions in relation to the accounts of public authorities and other bodies. But it is very specific in how it says those functions can be performed. And it says, as may be prescribed by or under any law for the time being in force in Jamaica. It means then that if the Auditor General is to act in relation to public bodies and other authorities, not central government being your ministries and your departments of government. If she's to act in relation to public bodies, it means there must be a statute, some law existing that outlines how she is to engage her role.
Understood, Senator. But I think the public concern is having found or having alleged that the Auditor General has not submitted her report in accordance with the relevant legislation as the Constitution provides, and the reports are being sent back. Would it not have been prudent for the Speaker at an appropriate time to advise the public that she was taking this course of action and why she was taking this course of action for the avoidance of doubt?
Ricardo, I'm not sure if I can answer that question. A report is sent to the Parliament. The Parliament communicates to the Auditor General. It would appear to me that the two offices can have a discussion on that matter and determine what is the appropriate legislation under which she should submit it. I don't think it really requires the kind of public kerfuffle that has happened.
But Senator, that's taking it outside of its context, which is that there is public concern about whether reports are being suppressed and the timing.
Yes, Ricardo. But understand this. I am not going to take that line of argument with you this morning, and the reason I'm not taking it is because I think that is a distraction and that we need to be guided by the law, which is clear. That is where my Jamaican people must be looking to, not this thing about who is suppressing. What does the law say? It is the law that will tell you whether the actions of the Speaker are appropriate or the actions of the Auditor General are appropriate.
There you have it from Government Senator Shireen Golding Campbell. And sometimes we allow the politics to intrude on these things, for political advantage, and we are worse off for that because we don't get logic and clarity. So, after the break, we're going to be joined by the Executive Director of the Lobby Group, Jeanette Calder. Yes? But before that, this issue with the Member of Parliament for South Manchester, the JLP's Robert Chin. Yesterday we woke up and saw, I don't know about you, but my inbox was just being flooded with this publication in the Sunday Gleaner, saying that the Integrity Commission is asking for the Member of Parliament for South Manchester to make contact with them ASAP. And that sent off right across the country a whole lot of tongues. What is it about? Well, the notice circulated widely on social media. And of course it said Mr. Chin should visit the Commission's office by this Wednesday the 27th, today is the 25th. But by later yesterday afternoon, Mr. Chin issued his own public statement saying that he has been in contact with the Integrity Commission over the last few months in relation to requested financial statements for companies of which he is a director. According to Mr. Chin, the requested statements have not yet been completed by the company's accountants, And as a result, those statements are still outstanding. He apologized to the Commission for not providing an update sooner. And he says he will be visiting the Office of the Integrity Commission today to try to resolve the matter. But I gather Mr. Chin is one of those who attends Parliament regularly. Something not adding up. Why would the Commission can't find him? Is it that they can't find him? Or is it that he has not provided information, as he seems to be suggesting in his statement? More questions and answers. And we have with us the Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, Jeanette Calder. JAMP has been vocal on this issue, not since last week, but for several weeks now. And I invited Ms. Calder here, especially after what we heard from Senator Golding Campbell this morning. Yes? Good morning, Jeanette.
Good morning, Cliff. Good morning to your listeners.
I trust we find you well.
I am. Thank you so much.
Good. So, does this come down to an interpretation of what the law says?
Yes, it does. Like everything that guides what government does.
Yes, because the government and the Speaker are saying they're following the law. Others are saying, no, your interpretation of the law is not correct.
Right.
Guide us, help us.
Well, I think I should just start by saying, because you've started at this point, Cliff, maybe in November and in October, it didn't appear to the Speaker that the need to share the Attorney General's opinion was paramount. But I would imagine that at this point, I'm hoping that the Speaker is reconsidering that, as well as the government, because the government itself can actually share it. But since it has come down to a place where there are so many different voices contending, JAMP has a different view as citizens, and as we've said, we're not swearing we're correct, but this is our view and we're asking for correction. Speaker has, the opposition has, the media might have. We're asking again for the Speaker to share the opinion of the Attorney General with Jamaica, so that we can be satisfied and so that we can be guided and so that we can be assured. That's the whole point of being transparent, is to assure citizens that the decisions that you have taken as a government is actually, in fact, in their best interest. But as it stands right now, I just want to say to your listeners, I want to just explain, it's important for you to understand the process in order to have a better understanding of why we are interpreting the law as we have. But everything seems to revolve around the section that both speakers, the previous speaker and the current speaker, has been quoting, and that's section 30 of the Financial Administration and Audit Act. And I'm asking again that the listeners don't just take JAMP's word for it. This is so important to our lives and our future, that I would like you to just pick up your phone if you can and put that in, the Financial Administration and Audit Act, and just scroll down to section 30. Section 30 has a heading before it gets into the information or the instruction or the guidance and the provision. And JAMP believes that is the heading that is the crux of the matter that's guiding us. The Auditor General has several different types of report clips that it does on behalf of the people of Jamaica. One such speaks to auditing, or we could just say checking or examining the financial records of government. So Parliament is right now passing a law, and when it's done, by the way, Parliament, a budget is a law. Cliff, I don't know when you discovered this, but I did live too long before I know that the budget is actually a legislation. It's really called the Appropriations Act. That's how serious a budget is.
Yes.
So when they have determined how the public funds must flow, they're not only saying how much money must flow and where it must flow and on what it is to be spent on, but our parliamentarians also determine how the contracts are awarded. There are laws that govern that. There are laws that govern if a permanent secretary decides that, boy, I have $10 million to spend, you can't just change $1 million to salaries. There's a process and it's a law that guides that. So the Auditor General goes in to check on the people's funds and make sure that the accounting records are really reflecting what took place. And so she gives a report back to the people's representatives to say, that law that you passed on procurement, it has been followed. Or that financial infrastructure environment, it has or has not been followed. And the amount of money that you have allocated to be spent in such a way, it has or has not been followed. Now, Section 30 to JAMP is speaking to a specific type of audit, and it says at the top, it's the audit of accounts of a public body by the Auditor General. The speakers of the House have decided that following that is an instruction which says that the appropriate minister for whichever public body, and I prefer to say public company just to make it easy for your listeners, public companies like NWC, NHT, Exim Bank, but there are some others that we won't get into. But once the minister that is responsible for that entity that is being audited, the audit is finished, the Auditor General must send the results of her findings and her report to the minister first. And then, if 2 months pass and the minister has not forwarded it to Parliament, then the Auditor General, not can, but shall, and in legal terms that usually means the Auditor General must now send it to the Parliament. The debate now, Cliff, is a matter of timing. Some people believe that the reports must go straight. Some people say it must go to the minister first. JAMP is saying not all reports of the Auditor General, because Section 30 identifies what type of audit. It says audit of accounts. Most of the reports that you discuss here, Cliff, if not all, are not audit of accounts. I've never heard you turning the pages to discuss the profit and loss or the income and expenditure of any entity. Never. But I hear you discussing how contracts have been awarded. I hear you discussing human resource decisions, which is how many people got hired and the Ministry of Finance never approved it. Those are the issues that we tend to discuss. Those are performance audits and compliance audits. So JAMP is saying those types of reports, Section 30 does not apply to, because Section 30 says it is the audit of the accounts of the public body that is to go to the minister. It's as simple as that for us.
So, where's the confusion then?
We are hoping that the speaker, to Speaker Holness's credit, when she came to the House on the 7th of November, she gave us a very good lead-up to her ruling. She unpacked what an Auditor General does, its relationship to public companies versus ministries, and then she gave the ruling. So she didn't just walk into the House and say, beat down the gavel and say, from henceforth. She explained her position and the why and the importance of it, and she gave her ruling. I am now saying the people have heard, the citizens have heard, such as myself, and we have read it and we are seeing something different. And I just want to say this for your listeners' sake. JAMP was formed out of the Outer Many matter under the 2013, 2014. I decided that citizens needed to get involved in the work of the Auditor General, because for those who remember Outer Many, we had a lot of questions about whether or not the decision of the NHD was correct. It was the Auditor General's department who got up, did an investigation, and provided the people with an answer. Why did I think, though, that a JAMP was necessary? Is because when that report came 4 months later, Cliff, we had all moved on. I had moved on. You had moved on. So many other things happening. And I thought accountability needed somebody to pay attention to these issues and to keep them alive so that they get fixed. So I did some serious research on the Auditor General and the laws that pertain to it with the support of the European Union. And it is that familiarity on which now I am banking this argumentation. It's not just since the ruling. These are laws that I have pored over and I have asked questions about them before. And this is why I'm of the view that what is important now is that the Speaker comes back to the House and explain again why, despite what citizens say and despite the Auditor General's refusal to follow her ruling, she's now going to give to us the benefit of the Attorney General's opinion. Because her words on that day, and I'll read it, I made a note of it, it says, the speaker said, the opinion I formed was supported in every way by the Attorney General and the Parliamentary Legal Counsel. I recall the former Attorney General, Member Marlene Malahoo Ford, standing to her feet to address the issue. And she made it so clear that she doesn't believe that every opinion from the AG's office is to be shared. But in these circumstances, it was her opinion that it was best that it be shared. And I agree with Member Marlene Malahoo Ford. That is what is needed now, so that the people of Jamaica can be assured.
I think that would be very helpful.
It would be more than helpful, because let us be honest, let's be not honest, but let me be clear. I've been looking at these. When I did the research from way back then in 2014, I read 41 Auditor General reports covering 6 years, Cliff. And I've gone and looked back at them, and every single one of them says that this report, that on the second page it says, matter of fact, I'll just turn to one of them because I just checked it. It actually literally says that it is being tabled under the Section 29 of the FAA Act. So the Auditor General is tabling under her interpretation of Section 29. The Speaker is saying, I believe it should be Section 30. The Auditor General is saying, it is Section 29, and therefore I'm sending it to you, as we have done for over 100 years, to be tabled. The Speaker is saying, no, it should be Section 30, and it should go to the Minister first. Who else but the Attorney General can guide the people of Jamaica? And we are the ones keeping the light on at the AG's office. So I think it is fair to say that since there is so much interest in it, Cliff, that it ought to be shared with the people of Jamaica.
Thank you very much, Jeanette Calder.
Yeah.
So we now look to the Speaker to share that opinion of the Attorney General.
There is only one other thing I think that is crucial for your listeners to understand, though, Cliff, because I remember when I read the section in the law that says a minister is to receive this report, I asked myself, but why? I was curious as to why would that be needed? Because in any jurisdiction in the world, many times, if not most times, when an Auditor General is reporting on findings, and you know that, Cliff, the listeners know that, these findings are not usually advantageous to a government. It doesn't matter where. It's usually bad news, let's face it, because that's actually the job of your doctor, to tell you what is wrong with your body, not what is right. The Auditor General doesn't waste time telling you what you're doing right. The reports are there to help the government to fix things, to help the government. So I thought it was kind of odd that it would be sent to the political representative or the minister, knowing full well that, you know, it's not, it just seemed weird. So I had inquired, why is this going first to the minister? And I think this would help the listeners to know why. When the Auditor General is auditing the records as it pertains to the finances, what is happening is that the financial statements have to go in an annual report. Every public body, every public company, at the end of a financial year, the law, that same FAA Act, requires a minister to send an annual report to the Parliament. And an annual report is dealing with a wide range of things, not just the finances. As it relates to the finances, the Auditor General would have double-checked the accounting records of that entity to make sure that they're accurate and them not carrying the Parliament and the people wide. So her comments would be included in that report. When it goes over to the ministry, since it's a report that the minister is compiling for the Parliament, which is really for the people of Jamaica, because that public company belongs to us, it's going to take some time, Cliff. So my understanding, the practice which has been from 1959, that legislation that we're referring to, Cliff, predates the Constitution of Jamaica. The practice has been that the legislators gave the minister some time because they're compiling a report. They would include the Auditor General's comments in it and send it off to the Parliament. However, our legislators were clear. If this report is taking longer than 2 months, they have placed a certain amount of urgency and weight and importance on getting the Auditor General's report, that they say if 2 months pass and the minister has not forwarded that report to us, you send yours. So that's not the people of Jamaica making heavy weight of it. It's the Parliament saying, your section, Auditor General, is so crucial that you send it ahead if you see 2 months pass. And you and I know, Cliff, that these reports don't come on a timely basis to the House. Am I right? So the legislators are saying, don't hold up the Auditor General's report. If that report doesn't come down, send yours down to us. So that is why Section 30 asks the Auditor General, or tells the Auditor General, to send the audit of accounts to the minister, because it is going to be included in a report. That is what it is.
And only the audit of accounts and not the wider report?
Precisely, because as I was sharing before, the IT reports, the performance reports, the reports on human resource, compliance reports, all those just go straight down. Those are not required to go to a minister, not if I'm reading the law. The law identifies, Cliff, I'll say it again, the heading says, audit of accounts of a public body by the Auditor General. Let me remind your listeners that when the former speaker held on to the first 3 reports, 2 of them were executive agencies. 2 weeks later, they had to be released because they were not public bodies. Why is that? Because the heading is telling you what is to go to the minister. It's not central government. It is not an executive agency. We have about 12 of those. It is the 146 public bodies that we have, and it is the audit of accounts. So if we are being guided by the law, Cliff, we cannot then say, let us send the performance reports as well. Let us send the special audit. You know what a special audit is, Cliff? Those are the reports that the Auditor General does directly related to concerns about abuse and misuse that comes from a cabinet member, a parliamentarian, a public official, the media, or citizens. Those are not to go to the minister first. It's the audit of accounts. Several different type of reports by the auditor, several different entities that she's auditing. Section 30 is only speaking to one type of entity, the public body, and one type of report. Now, if our legislators believe that it should be treated differently, Cliff, there is a way to do it, We have empowered them to change the law. And so that's all that JAMP is saying. Then change the law if we believe that this is an improvement. But I'm here to tell your listeners that everywhere else in the Commonwealth, the way Jamaica has been doing it, is how the other 150 countries in the Commonwealth do it as well. So I want them to understand that this is a best practice, the shortest and quickest route from the Auditor General to the representatives of the people. When it is tabled, Cliff, I want to disabuse any listener from thinking it's just the media and the parliamentarian and special groups, so-called special groups like JAMP. When a report is tabled, every citizen in Jamaica can email the parliament, and they are obligated to give it to the citizen. So the delay is not we're keeping this from our MPs. We're keeping it from the people of Jamaica, because the media would always get it by default and share with us what the findings are. But any citizen can ask for it. This 2-month delay is not best, I think, for good governance. We would like the Speaker to share the opinion of the Attorney General with us, and we can all, as a people, and just one family, just sit down and discuss what's best for the nation.
Thank you very much.
We'll take it from there. Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate the time.
Good. Jeanette Calder is the Executive Director of JAMP. So, I think it is now in the ball of the Speaker, yes, to guide the public discourse on this, yes, in terms of what the law says and the points raised by people like Jeanette Calder, yes, that interpretation is not in keeping with the law.
Okay, so that was great. So you would have heard the opinion and views of both ladies. The government senator, you would have heard her expressing her opinion on what the Constitution of Jamaica says is the role and duties of the Auditor General, and she read the sections and told us what the sections are. So she's coming strictly from a constitutional point of view. Ms. Calder, on the other hand, is well read on the matter. She has consulted with, I guess, attorneys to see whether or not that Section 30 of the Financial Administration Audit Act can be interpreted the way in which the Parliament has interpreted it. At any rate, the Speaker of the House. And I'm not too sure if she's suggesting that it is the speaker alone that has been interpreting it this way. But she's of the opinion that Section 30 should not be interpreted in the way in which it's being interpreted. Now, I have gone and I have looked at it. I'm no attorney either, okay? So I just want you to know, but I hope I have common sense. Now, the section of the Act, the Financial Administration Audit Act, this act, I should tell you, was not a recent act. It was created from as far back as 1959. So this act precedes the independence. It would have been passed when Norman Manley was, I think they called him premier at the time. And so we were in the stage of self-government. The sections I'm going to read to you appears to have been amendments to the Act in 1992. Again, these two sections are not of recent vintage. They have been there in the Act since 1992. So let me tell you now what it is that they say the function of the Auditor General is, or the powers that is being given to the Auditor General with respect to her audit of public bodies and, central government. Now it says here, and I want you to listen good now. Section 29(1) says, the Auditor General shall report annually as soon as possible and not later than the 31st day of December following the end of each financial year, the results of his examination, provided that the Auditor General may, at any time, if it appears to him to be desirable, prepare a special report on any matter incidental to his powers and duties under this Act. Every report of the Auditor General shall be addressed to the Speaker, who shall lay the report before the House of Representatives as soon as possible after its receipt by him. So, the law is saying that the Auditor General should prepare her annual reports of all the audits that she has done during the year and any special report, and submit it to the Speaker before the end of the financial year, which is the 31st of December. That's what that section is saying. So it's telling you what the Auditor General should put in her report and who in the Parliament she is supposed to send those reports to. So it's to the Speaker. It must be addressed to the Speaker. So now, the section now 30 of the same Act. Now in the little fine print here, it says Audit of Accounts of Public Body. Now, remember now, the Constitution gives the Auditor General the power to examine the central government accounts, as you heard the young senator described. And I do believe it also gives her the power to examine and audit public bodies. But this section is telling now what the procedure is for the Auditor General whenever the Auditor General is asked to or sees it fit to audit public bodies. So public bodies now is different from central government. That's basically what I'm saying. So here's what it says. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any other enactment, the Auditor General may, if he thinks fit, audit the accounts of any public body and shall do so if the House of Representatives by resolution so directs. So it seems to me that the Auditor General has to go to the Parliament and get permission if she wants to audit a public body. Now, having gotten that permission from the House of Representatives to go ahead and audit the accounts of the public body, the law also states what is to be done with the result of that report. So at subsection 2 it says, the Auditor General's report on his examination and audit of any accounts audited pursuant to subsection 1, which is the public body, shall be transmitted to the appropriate minister for presentation to the House of Representatives. You see that? So if the Auditor General wants to go in and look at the accounts of any public body, whether it's the NHT, the Heart Trust, any one of them, any public body, no matter what they want to be, long as they're under the direction of a minister, okay? The Auditor General requests permission from Parliament, gets that permission, and then the law here is saying that once the Auditor General examination and audit is complete, then she is to submit that report to the minister. And it's the minister now who is going to present the report to the House of Representatives. What Ms. Caller was trying to say is that this section is relating to accounts, but she seemed to be suggesting that special audits may not include accounts. For example, she seems to be implying that there are other circumstances where the Auditor General may be asked to do some kind of a examination of, say, the procedure. You know, like for example, I guess with the titles office, let's say that people are complaining that they're taking too long to give people back them title and that sort of thing. And so they might ask the Auditor General to go in and check to see what she would recommend they need to do to improve. I'm not quite sure if that is what Ms. Calder is saying, but that could be a form of an audit. And whatever report that the Auditor General comes to, she's suggesting that that does not need to go to the minister. I am suggesting here, it really doesn't matter what the Auditor General is doing, as long as it is a public body that she's doing it with, the examination, the recommendation, whatever it is that she's doing with a public body, there's a procedure for her to follow. Once she follows that procedure and she does her audit and her examinations and her report is done, it must go to the minister. You understand that now? That's what the law says. Central government, different story. Once you're dealing with a public body, it has to go to the minister. Now, there is a procedure for the minister to follow as well. Once the minister gets that report from the Auditor General, it says here that the appropriate minister shall obtain the observations of the public body concerned on any matter to which attention has been called by the Auditor General in his report, and such observations shall be presented to the House of Representatives with the report. If the appropriate minister fails within 2 months after receipt of the report to present it to the House of Representatives, the Auditor General shall transmit a copy of the report to the Speaker of the House to be presented by him to the House. So this is saying, okay, so the Auditor General went in and did the audit. Once that audit is complete, it is to go to the minister. Once the minister receives it, the minister would then send the report to the body that is affected, like for example, Petrojam, and they are to write back to the minister whatever concern that the Auditor General had. They are to respond to the minister. Whatever response that the minister receives from the body, the public body, he is to take that response as well as the Auditor General's report and then submit that to Parliament. That is what I understand this section to mean. So I don't think Ms. Caller is right. But I may have more for you as soon as I receive the answers to the questions that I have asked. And I know you're all very curious to know what questions I have asked. Well, for example, we would want to know if the Auditor General did indeed send the 2 special audit reports to the ministers, and when. No, I'm not telling you anything else. That's just a little teaser until next time. So, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me My subscribers and my regular viewers, I thank you so much for the support. Without you, this channel will be nothing. So do understand that I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the thumbs up. Until I get that information or some other excitement occur in the meantime, I say so long for now. Walk good.